Okay, so imagine this. You get your regular Amazon delivery, you rip open the box, and inside you find your order and a massive political mystery. Well, that's exactly what happened in a small town in Maine, and it kicked off a huge investigation that's fueling a really intense debate about election security. So let's get right to it. The central question is just bizarre. How in the world did 250 official state ballots find their way into a random Amazon box? That's what a resident in Newburgh, Maine, discovered when she opened her package and found something that absolutely, positively should not have been there.
And we're not talking about a couple of misplaced papers here, no. Inside that box were 5 professionally sealed packets. And when you add them all up, you get a grand total of 250 blank absentee ballots for an upcoming state election. And here's where it gets even weirder. Before the resident even cut it open, she noticed the box just didn't look right. She told a local TV station that it looked like it had been opened and then retaped. So right from the get-go, things felt off. So you got a tampered box, hundreds of missing ballots. You can bet an official investigation kicked off immediately. The first thing they had to do was connect the dots. So let's break down the timeline, because the timing here is absolutely critical. Okay, so check this out. On Tuesday morning, the city of Ellsworth officially reports that, hey, 250 of our absentee ballots are missing from a shipment. Then, that very same afternoon, a resident 40 miles away in Newburgh opens her Amazon package and finds, you guessed it, 250 ballots. She did the right thing, turned them in right away, and by Wednesday morning, the state was officially on the case. And the response was, well, massive. This was treated with the utmost seriousness. Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows announced this huge investigation. We're talking her own law enforcement division, the Attorney General, the state police, and even federal partners like the US Postal Service and the FBI got involved. This was a real all-hands-on-deck situation. As soon as this story broke, 2 completely different explanations started to form. Was this just a bizarre, one-in-a-million shipping mistake? Or was this something more intentional? Maybe even a message about the system's security? And this really gets to the heart of the debate. On one hand, you have the official view from Secretary of State Bellows. She's projecting confidence, basically saying any ballots that fall outside the official chain of custody, that's the secure, documented path they're supposed to follow, are worthless. They can't be used. Her message is clear, the election is safe, and if there's a bad actor, they'll be punished. But then, on the other hand, you have the reporter who broke the story, Steve Robinson, who sees this as a massive security failure that officials are desperately trying to downplay. And for Robinson and other critics, this isn't just some small administrative oops, no way. They're arguing this points to a much bigger problem, even calling it the biggest election scandal to hit Maine in the last 30 years. To them, this is a major, major breach. And this tension, it actually boiled over in public. At a press conference about the incident, Secretary Bellows straight up refused to take any questions from Robinson, the reporter. She dismissed him as an uncredentialed conservative blogger. And, well, that moment itself became another huge part of the controversy. Now, to really understand why this whole thing blew up, you have to know that it didn't happen in a vacuum. It landed like a bombshell right in the middle of a much larger, high-stakes political fight that was already happening in Maine. See, this whole ballot mystery unfolded just weeks before Maine voters were set to decide on something called Question 1. It's a citizen-led initiative, a referendum, that was proposing some major changes to the state's voting laws. So on one side, you have supporters calling these proposals common-sense security measures, things like requiring a photo ID to vote or making sure bipartisan teams are the ones emptying ballot drop boxes. But opponents argue, hold on, this is a direct attack on voting access that will make it way harder for thousands of people to cast their ballots. And this is a really big deal because, look, a huge number of people in Maine rely on the very absentee voting system that Question 1 wants to change. We're talking almost half of all voters in the state, and a staggering 60% of senior citizens used absentee voting just this year. So here we are. The official investigation is still plugging away, a really contentious election is right around the corner, and this whole incident has left people in Maine with way more questions than answers about just how secure their elections really are. And because this whole thing has become so political, you've now got some heavy hitters, like U.S. Senator Susan Collins stepping in. She's actually calling for an independent federal investigation, one that's completely separate from the Secretary of State's office, just to try and ensure public trust and impartiality. Which leaves us right back where we started.
with this one big unresolved question. Was this just a one in a million logistical fluke, a simple shipping error that will never happen again? Or does it expose a real vulnerability in our election process, one that could potentially be exploited? As the investigation continues, that is the question hanging over the entire state of Maine.